All right, I love it. I love when statists who are all about workers' rights, who constantly go on tirades and diatribes against business owners, the capitalist class, the rich, the big businesses, etc., and claim that they're exploitative of the working class. They extract wealth from their laborers, they hamper their efforts to unionize, they don't pay their workers a living wage, and even sometimes these greedy capitalists pay their workers only starvation wages. Now, who do we hear this from? Vox, Bernie Sanders, the Young Turks? And what do they say we should do about it? What do they fight for? Well, they fight for the right for workers to unionize, to be paid a higher minimum wage, very often set at $15 an hour nowadays, and they want an endless list of benefits for all laborers. Now, I would agree with them if we lived in a unicorn candy land where dollars and cents didn't need to add up, but I understand that these too good to be true scenarios where government swoops in and rights every wrong are just that. They're too good to be true. Now, I understand that, and thankfully, I think Bernie Sanders, Vox, and the Young Turks might understand that a little bit better now, too. They're not going to change their tune, of course, but they've at least got a little real-world experience with this stuff now. Not that I think they'll actually internalize any lesson from it. But Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks has apparently asked his staff not to unionize. And he apparently stated that no one is making money in the digital media landscape or they are unsustainable. Now, this isn't true. Styx Hexenhammer makes money. Stefan Molyneux makes money. There's plenty of people who make money and make a living off of YouTube or digital media content, but I don't know the financial situation of the Young Turks. Maybe they have a lot of high costs. I'm sure they do, but this is exactly the point. What Cenk Uygur said here is perfectly fine. I completely understand his predicament. If you all unionize, we can't go on like that, and you might be out of a job completely then. That's perfectly valid. But notice how he supports policies and candidates that want to mandate this stuff for the entire country. Have a substantial increase in the federal minimum wage, mandate a litany of benefits employers must provide for their workers. Cenk Uygur supports candidates that would prevent businesses from being able to make these decisions themselves based off their own circumstances, exactly like what Cenk Uygur did here. So if he was a reasonable person with a functioning logical brain, this would be an easy lesson. Just because something is mandated doesn't mean businesses can comply with the mandate and survive, and the employees, despite possibly winning a political battle, end up losing the economic war. The hypocrisy here is stunning. And like I said, I love this stuff. If you remember, this very same thing, or something very similar, happened with Vox and Bernie Sanders' campaign. Vox supported the gig law in California, basically saying that contractual workers in the gig economy must be treated like employees, so they are all entitled to the mandated benefits that employees get. So the law goes through, and this very same law that Vox supported forced them to cut 200 freelance workers. The very law that Vox thought would be so beneficial for people doing these gigs was the very same law that gave Vox cause to no longer employ these freelance workers. And who are we kidding? If someone went to Vox and told them that this labor law would be detrimental to workers, Vox would have called them a right-wing nut job who has their mind warped due to conservative rhetoric or something. Well, unfortunately, no one needed to clue Vox in on how laws have undesirable consequences. They felt those consequences all on their own. And then, of course, Bernie Sanders' campaign, if you remember, was paying salaried employees to the tune of $13 an hour, and then their campaign got all pissy when their staffers went to the press, and again, the hypocrisy is real. You cannot rail on endlessly on how much of an outrage it is that everyone doesn't get paid $15 an hour, while you yourself do not pay your staffers the equivalent of that wage. If you're going to cast blame on big businesses and greedy rich people for exploiting workers and not paying them enough, then shame on you when it's revealed that you are guilty of the very same thing that you're blaming everyone else for. But all in all, I love this stuff. I enjoy watching the overflowing hypocrisy, and I enjoy watching leftist organizations freak out because employees are talking about doing what they themselves support or campaign for. And when that happens, they say, well, you can't do it to us, we can't afford it, or we can't expand. Well, I think that's a fair point. But from here on out, you should not be taken seriously by any thinking person if you don't extend that same privilege of warning employees or complaining to your employees to other businesses and organizations that might not agree with the legislation you support. When a business says, hey, raising the minimum wage or giving more power to unions could hurt our employees, so maybe this isn't a good idea, the only proper response from the Young Turks, Bernie Sanders campaign, or Vox would be to say, yeah, crap, we know, we learned that the hard way. But that is all for now. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and please take it easy.